there. Hello, everybody who's joining us for
Hello.
this lovely little continuation of our journey into the world of Star Trek. How are you doing with the whole Star Trek thing, MauLer?
Oh, I'm getting along just fine. I'm going through the journey as a normal person should. I even happen to know the fun fact that when this came out, they were promoting the beginning of TNG, right? Like, as in they were saying they had announced it. So in the timeline,
They had.
it's like I'm moving right through again there.
Indeed. Well, there's a few little bits I was going to tell you about that. Actually, this movie actually indirectly led to TNG getting made. But well, I suppose I could just launch into that now. We're going to be talking today about Star Trek IV: The Voyage Home.
Yeah.
Basically a break from the movie that had come before it, which was The Search for Spock. This kind of takes us. It's less about, I suppose, continuing the story of the previous one and telling a whole new one. It came out in 1986, so not long before TNG. And part of the reason this all came about was that William Shatner was not originally keen to come back for this one. He was wanting more money. He was basically looking to move on to other roles. And it took quite a bit of work to get him to come back. And the part of the way they did this was that he and Leonard Nimoy both got the same salary, even though Nimoy was the director, so he probably should have got more. But they'd had a contract agreement that went all the way back to the TV show days that said whatever one actor got, the other one got. It's called the Favored Nations Clause. And so because of that, the original cast were starting to get quite expensive. You know how it goes with TV shows and movies.
Yeah.
Like when each subsequent one that they're in, their salaries go up and up because they're in more demand. That was starting to become a problem. And so to have a bit of a safeguard for that, and also to give Gene Roddenberry something to do, because he was starting to cause problems behind the scenes and interfering in production more and more, they came up with the idea for TNG, which would give them a whole new cast of actors who would be relatively unknown and a lot cheaper to work with. And it would allow them to have a Star Trek show on TV again, while they also did these movies with the original cast, as long as they could afford them. And so that's kind of how The Next Generation came about. It was partly as a result of this film and the cast getting very expensive, and probably the fact that they were all getting older as well. Something that you'll definitely notice in the next couple of movies. But yeah, this movie, unlike the previous one where they had very strict terms about what kind of story that could be told, they obviously had to wrap up the events of Wrath of Khan. They had to bring Spock back, all those things. Leonard Nimoy was directing it and had a hand in writing it as well. And they gave him much more of a free rein with this one to tell a story that he wanted to tell. And he decided quite rightly that he wanted one that was much more lighthearted and adventurous than the previous one, because Wrath of Khan and The Search for Spock, very heavy, dramatic movies with a lot of the themes centered around loss, death, sacrifice, all that sort of thing. And I think they wanted to break from that and do something that was just a bit more fun. And that's how we ended up with The Voyage Home. And I'm sorry for that very long, rambling explanation there, but I just wanted to give some context for it, which you probably know some of it.
Well, it's interesting, right? Because you come from it with a lot of surrounding meta information about the progress of all of it and the understanding and like reactions at the time / even later with all this knowledge. Meanwhile, I'm just like, I'll pop a movie on, see what it's all about. This is the fourth one. Like, I have so little context, it's insane. And it's funny because I think with the people listening to this, they get to enjoy the fact that I have so little point of reference that I come out with saying some stuff that's just like, what the fuck? I've never heard anyone say that about the movie before. It's like, oh well, there you go. So like, I guess this isn't out of a wild position, but yeah, I got a sense once I'd finished. I was like, so that was like a sillier one and a fun one. Like that was, it's an interesting contrast. And I did feel after watching, I was like, I felt like it was suitable that we had that. After the adventures we've been having, it feels nice to have a bit of a relaxation, especially if you see them as a series as opposed to, I guess when you're watching them at the time, you don't know that there will definitely be another one and another one and another one. But as you're watching it, I started to realize gradually, I think it was like halfway where I was like, oh, this is just fun. Like, we're just doing a fun episode of Star Trek that's really long where they go to like the 80s or whatever.
Yeah.
It's a cool
I,
idea.
I think it showed because even like, you know, the motion picture was very, very heavy, very hard on the sci-fi, and not many moments of levity. And obviously Wrath of Khan and Search for Spock, like I said, were very heavy, dramatic sort of movies as well. And it was just nice to show that, hey, yeah, Star Trek can still be fun. You can tell like quite an interesting sci-fi adventure, but also it doesn't have to be like super serious all the time. There could be a sort of lighter tone to it, and it can feel kind of joyous, I suppose. Like, yeah, these guys can still enjoy themselves while they're doing this stuff, and I think it's really well handled. I think they find a good balance with this movie.
I will say, Wrath of Khan is still undefeated. Not that anyone's expecting me to eventually say otherwise, but I just wanted to confirm that. I like this one, and it's probably my number 2. But that Wrath of Khan is still, I feel like, a far and away the best out of the 4 that I've seen.
Yeah, no, I don't think you're going to change that opinion. You might actually when you get to Undiscovered Country. That'll be interesting to see. But with this one, yeah, I think we both were of the opinion that Search for Spock was a decent enough sequel. I think you compared it to DLC for Wrath of Khan, which I thought was a pretty good
and I don't mean that to be, mean. I think people were a little sad that I didn't like that film more. I just but the thing is, I came off of Wrath of Khan, and I was like, I think that's part of an issue for a lot of people is you kind of want that again. Give me more of that.
Yeah. And it was a tough, it was a pretty high benchmark, I suppose, a high bar to reach. But with this one, yeah, I think goes on a different route, but I think it does it in a really fun, interesting way. So I don't know. Shall we just fire into this thing and
fire it up? Yeah,
do some watching. All right. So yeah, for the people at home, we'll try and put some visual references on screen for you so that you know roughly where we are in the movie. But if you do have your old DVDs or VCRs or whatever ready to go, this is a good opportunity for you to watch it along with us. So I will count us down and say 3, 2, 1, go.
I will say it's the funniest of the 4, but that's not really a shock. I don't imagine.
Yeah. Oh, this is interesting that they've got the dedication to the Challenger. I see this in every version, but yeah, this came just after the Challenger disaster, so it's quite nice that they dedicated it.
I suppose it's something that they would have felt when creating it, that it's about time to counterbalance all of the hyper drama, but at the same time, you kind of want probably still to keep it, and then the wrestling with a message to have, right, like a theme. I don't know what the conversation about that is, but I hope I'm not alone in thinking it was a little bit funny, like the lack of subtlety in what this movie's trying to tell us about, life, somewhat a life lesson, maybe.
Certainly the environmental aspect is not subtle.
I guess we'll get there, but just some of it I thought was really well handled in terms of making me think about something in a way that felt like it was slipped in sort of naturally. But then some of the dialogue, I was like, okay, chill out. I get it. I got it. Yeah, and I think Nimoy would have just been looking to sort of try and approach this issue.
Yeah, I mean, I think particularly when it's to do with whale hunting and stuff, it was a super big issue back in the mid-'80s, because that's when it was unrestricted, essentially. So a lot of these species were like on the verge of extinction. I think I could be wrong. I think there's a bit more laws and a bit more enforcement around this sort of thing now to try and protect them. But yeah, I can see why it was just rampant back then, and they perhaps wanted to talk about it.
Well, I think that I read something about how on the release of this film the same year, not necessarily because of this film or anything, but that there was a law related to whale hunting that was like a worldwide sort of animal rights law that got put in place. It was a really significant one. But let's assume it was this film, and that's the difference that a great story can make, everybody.
You saved whales, Star Trek. Well done.
Yay. It is funny to listen to them talk about how much passion they have for whales in this film, because I'm sitting here like, yeah, I know, me too. It's a pretty cool place.
Whales are nice, I guess.
Yeah.
You know what? It's interesting as well. Like, you can tell right away just from the soundtrack that's playing that this is going to be a very different Star Trek film.
Yeah. it was hard to capture words to say exactly what I was getting from this music, but distinctly I felt at much more ease. Everything was going to be chill.
Yeah, it's lighter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was a wise choice to do this, to go this route, because I think if they'd had another super heavy, like Wrath of Khan style movie with this fourth one, it would have been like, okay, these movies are getting hard, hard going, man.
Yeah, and I think it might have given an impression of just, is this what Star Trek is then? It's just like hyper dramatic, a bunch of people die every
Grim.
film. And yeah, you want to bring in a bit of hope and a bit of exploration of just sci-fi concepts. Not that the other films didn't have them. It's just that you don't want every single time being about a big death or something.
Oh my God, look at this. A diverse woman in charge of a starship. This happened in the 1980s, everyone. It could actually be a thing.
This is lies. This no. Having that thing again recently, people were like, can you even name a female character you like outside of Ellen Ripley? It's just like, man, it's gotten clownish if you think we can't even name one other one.
Yeah.
Not even love, just like.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You gotta love these really cinematic security cameras here.
You could tell they were like, we gotta put something on it.
Yeah, we're just gonna straight up play you footage from the previous film.
Well, it's good that we have repercussions from decisions that were made in that film, because you don't want stealing the Enterprise to be considered like, oh, you guys, silly guys.
Well, the fact that Klingons died in this whole encounter as well, and there's tensions between the Federation and the Klingons. It's nice little bit of world building, and it neatly summarizes what happened in the previous film
and the Klingons' point of view, or at least how they're presenting their point of view. Also, he looks really cool, the outfit and the makeup.
Yeah, it's good. I love this guy, actually. He's an absolute blowhard. He actually recurs as well in Undiscovered Country. It's like the Klingon ambassador.
Yeah, his version of events is a bit different.
Yeah. Now, keeping that in mind as well, that they're negotiating a peace treaty, because there's a kind of de facto state of war, at least a cold war between the Klingons and the Federation. That's obviously mirroring the Soviets at the time. But I think even they recognize that like maybe the Cold War was starting to wind down now, and you start to get that reflected in Star Trek.
Mm-hmm.
And it becomes very important in Undiscovered Country. We won't talk about Final Frontier. Just.
But I thought we will eventually, right? We're gonna watch.
We're gonna have to, I think.
Yes, because you said even numbers are the good ones, right?
It was the kind of urban myth, I suppose, around Star Trek, but I would argue that some of the odd-numbered ones are okay as well. So, but I think the even-numbered ones tend to be better.
How many are there total again?
6 with the original crew.
Right. But we don't like to talk about any with the TNG crew.
I would talk to you about them. They're not like unbearable or anything. Some of them are okay. Like First Contact, okay, it's fine. Generations was the biggest missed opportunity ever.
Mm-hmm.
Damn, harsh words.
Well, I assume as well, considering the way this film goes, that is actually a sort of, I don't know, maybe because I could be completely wrong, but that we'll be seeing repercussions of that later as well. I'm not sure if the Klingons will have an opinion about what happens in this movie.
They're never like particularly fond of Kirk, but like there's events in Undiscovered Country force their hand to some extent, and they have to at least pretend to cooperate with him.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Scott's drip over there. Look at that.
Oh yeah,
those outfits.
Well, it's the no, what do you call it? It's suede, the suede coat.
Mm.
It's like that Star Trek admiral from the third movie. Like, oh man, that just looks like such a comfy jacket you're wearing. I like McCoy's one as well.
So
sadly they got rid of Chekhov's like salmon-colored
yes,
disaster.
I mentioned it, I think, about the search for Spock, and I feel like it gets repeated for this one. I'm not sure exactly what the idea is in total. It could just be a screen time actors issue, but I feel like half the crew really don't get served as much as they probably should be. Again, almost love everything to do with Spock, Kirk, and Bones in this film, but I just randomly remember, like, oh man, we haven't had much for the other three at all.
I don't know. I mean, I think compared to other movies, they get a lot to do. It's just the nature of the Star Trek films, I think.
That's the problem. I think I agree with what you just said, but I maintain that they don't have enough. Like I said, like as someone who's only seen these movies, I feel that they're generally underserved. At this point, it seems like that's the point, is that they just don't get much. You know, like Sulu gets the helicopter bit, and then that's like it.
Pretty much, yeah. Like, you know, Scotty gets the bit with the computer, like, you know, like transparent aluminum and all that stuff. And he's the engineer, so he gets to do a few like cool things. But yeah, it was always a problem with these films. I don't know if they just wanted to keep the format of the TV show intact, where it was very much Kirk, Spock, and McCoy. Mm-hmm. They are the central core of the storylines, and everyone else just kind of orbits around them.
It's clear why. I just feel like there's a lot of scenes where it's like, can we just get some more lines for them? For example, right, when they make the decision for the plan with the whales and stuff, I don't think we get the opinion of basically anybody in the crew outside of Bones, Spock, and Kirk.
Yeah.
And I was just like, surely that's an opportunity to get some, points of view.
Possibly a lot of this was just Shatner being an absolute prima donna and trying to steal every scene or get every, bit of dialogue and stuff.
I was wondering about that.
Yeah, he was notorious for it during the TV show days. He would literally just like steal lines from other actors and force them to give them to Kirk instead. And I imagine, like, he kind of had them over a barrel, really. Like, either you give me the lion's share of the screen time, or I just won't sign on for the next movie. And I'm Kirk, so you need me.
Now, something that I just find interesting about the way they handle Spock, which is obviously fundamentally he's all about that logic, but you get all those clues that he actually feels a lot and that doesn't like to give it away, sort of thing. It's so funny to compare, because obviously I was more familiar through unfortunate circumstances with JJ's Star Trek before I was this Star Trek. And so seeing his interpretation, which is, you see, I am logical, and then in like heightened circumstances, he's just fucking screaming all the time, Mm-hmm. And it's like, man, that just like misses out on what makes moments so powerful when, for example, in this film later, it's like, we're going to save Chekhov. And then Kirk's like, why? And he's like, it's not the logical thing to do. And he's like, it's the human thing to do.
Yep.
Like, there's not even a sense of, he's almost delivering that in a logical way. Like, logically speaking, I have feelings.
Yes. Remember subtlety in characterization and acting? I like that. That was nice.
Oh, it's so much more satisfying than, I'm going to yell at you and punch you. Roar.
Yeah. Because, like, obviously Spock is half human, and he's always wrestling with that human side of himself, but, like, he does it in a way that's, like, and it's down to Nimoy's performance. He's very subtle about it.
So, if I were to have criticisms of this film that I very much like, it would be almost everything to do with the time travel and this probe.
You like it?
No. Okay. not the. But to be fair, what they do with this is actually how I would, that excuse people give to Looper, where they're like, oh, they use time travel to get to a place, and then the place is great, just like Terminator. That doesn't apply to Looper because the fucking mechanics are spread throughout the entire film. This is a film that I think qualifies, where once you swallow the time travel stuff, the rest of the film can happen, which is awesome. I don't know that I maybe I don't know enough about the Star Trek rules, but before we get to the time travel stuff anyway, this probe, right? Earth know it's coming, and they don't seem to put very much in place to prevent it when it represents one of the biggest existential threats I imagine they've ever come across.
Yes. I
Admittedly,
guess
right, it
you
wipes
can't
out their
really.
systems, but you
Yeah,
can fire missiles at it, and when they get close, they would lose propulsion, I suppose, but they would still go through space and then hit it.
but they wouldn't detonate, I suppose.
Well, we're
Maybe you could.
humans, highly advanced. We could attach stuff to them that detonates on impact, as opposed to
Well, yeah,
you
I mean,
know.
I suppose that like the probe is shown to be like almost benign in the fact that it doesn't seem to even be aware of the damage that it's causing. But like I perhaps
True.
assume that if you were to open fire on it, it would have defensive measures in place to protect itself.
Well, so I think the problem is they don't establish that, because I actually would have preferred that they were able to attack it and it was immune. But instead, I think they say like they can't find a way to attack it because it's like EMPing everything around it.
Yeah.
And I was just like, but if you know about it, you know what I'm saying, right? If it's moving slowly toward Earth and it's still out of range, it's like we can fire things at it that will eventually reach it.
And I don't know, perhaps it was a budgetary issue, like, rendering all that stuff would have been quite time consuming and expensive. Maybe they just didn't have the resources.
This is what I mean. The solution I would have is that someone comes, next scene we have of them, and it's like, so missiles 17, 18, and 19 actually made it, or, all the tech you need, but that none of them have had any effect. This thing is immune. It will not take any damage from any firearms we have in any way, shape, or form. And most of ours are now useless because it's too close and it's actually like EMP'd everything. If they just had that, I'd be fine with it. But I was a little bit disappointed that Earth made basically no effort to deal with it. Even, right, Kamikaze, just have there's something thrown at it, like a big ship is sent in its direction and then loses propulsion, but just floats through space into it. I wouldn't mind seeing something desperate like that. But on the side of budget, fair enough. But I just think that we could have had like a throwaway line just to let me know that we did try, because Earth seemed to just sort of get caught with their fucking pants down. They're like, well, we're fucked.
Yeah. We did everything we could, which was nothing. No, I agree. I think that, it would have been relatively easy to patch that hole over.
And yeah, she's out now for the rest of the series, right? This is her last appearance.
She is, sadly, yeah, and it's a shame because Savik's a good character. Interestingly, there was, I think, a discarded version of the script that was going to show her being pregnant.
Right, connecting back to that lost storyline from the third film.
Yes,
because they edited that out, right?
Yeah, but they just, I guess they just decided not to go with it. But it's a shame. I even liked the new actress that they got, Robin Curtis. I think she did a pretty good job. So it would have been nice to see her go along with this adventure. But I guess they've already got one Vulcan on board, so that's enough.
And she mentioned the nature of Kirk's son's death, which to me, because we did talk about it when we watched the film, I feel like that is making up for a lack of time given to that in the previous film.
Yeah.
I don't know why else you'd put that here, because it's a weird time for her to bring it up to him now, but I'm glad it's here.
Yeah. You'll probably notice as well, like the bridge of the Klingon ship is quite different from the previous movie.
Hey man, they've done some work on it, right? There you go.
Yeah, there you go. Again, like this is where they spend the bulk of the film, I suppose, or when they do the bridge scenes, so they put a lot more budget into making it look cool, and it does. Well, I think it looks good.
And you know what? Bold and cool of them to have basically the entire story in this whole movie of Star Trek, and it's not in the Enterprise, it's in a Klingon ship.
Yeah,
that's something that I imagine some people were like, "We're not doing that." And it's like, we are doing that.
It's actually very handy that it is a Klingon ship because it can cloak itself.
Right. Obviously, narratively, they're able to use the fact that it's that, but it's still just, it's like someone being like, the Millennium Falcon got captured by pirates, so we can't have it back in this film. As people be like, just get it back, fuck you. Like we gotta have it back.
You know what I like about the probe though, just from a design point of view? I like how just weird and alien it looks. Like it's just this giant cigar with like a ball hanging out of it.
Well,
quite an odd design, but yeah.
I think it's really cool that it's here to contact life that isn't humans. It doesn't care about humans. It doesn't even recognize humans. Like it doesn't treat them with anything other than just it's just stuff.
It's kind of like, get out of the way, metal things.
Yeah, just weird metal things floating around.
Where's my whale friends? Look how big it is as well. Like, because you see the space dock there, which is enormous by itself, and this fucking thing like just glides past it, absolutely dwarfs it. You know, there was actually, I can tell you this, one of the studio notes from Paramount was that they wanted to have subtitles for the alien probe.
Oh,
And it would be saying things like, "Where are you? Why aren't you talking to me?" And Leonard Nimoy was like, "I'm going to straight up quit as director if you make us do this." And they're like, oh, "Okay, fair enough."
That would be horrendous. I would have assumed the subtitles were broken if I saw that. I'd be like, why are they showing that?
Could you imagine how fucking cringe the bit at the end would be with the whales giving birth? Like, and it would be saying things like, "Fuck off, leave the humans alone, they're good."
See, that's like a Simpsons joke that you'd have subtitles for the whales. Like, you don't do that in Star Trek. Oh yeah, we talked a little bit about this. I think you mentioned it in the previous film. Their conversation about how he did die.
Yep. This is a great like little interplay between McCoy and Spock here. Such different characters, but they're so, the actors are great. It's great to see them interact when they get these little scenes together.
Well, the fact that he just had to fill your shoes, and then he's just like, "What do you even mean?" And then Bones being like, "Right, I gotta fucking explain all these idioms to you."
Yeah, because like Spock's been, reincarnated, and so he's even less pliant and aware of, human dialogue as he was before.
I have to have died to discuss dying.
I love the look on McCoy's face there.
I will say I've always liked Bones, but this is probably my favorite film for him. Like, he gets to do a bunch of really funny shit in this.
Yeah, he does. It's when they're trying to, give the secrets to transparent aluminum, and Bones is like, "Oh, are we not going to alter the future here?" And Scotty just goes, "Well, how do we know he doesn't invent the thing in the first place?" And you just get this little smile from McCoy, like, oh, "Okay, fine."
Well, that's what I mean. I feel like arguably like willed consistency sort of stuff is sacrificed in favor of some funnies, which is I get it. I would have loved to have talked to Leonard Nimoy about that because of how he clearly cares about the sort of sci-fi aspects of Star Trek, of course.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of lampshading in this film about the time travel aspects, but the film just sort of carries on. It wants to have the premise, and it's like, just let us go.
Yeah.
And what's interesting about that, what he introduces to that guy is like it's like a real thing. The sort of advancement in technology with the inches of wall to maintain strength and stuff. Like that's like an actual thing that we did in real life. But I think I read it was 23 years later than when they were introducing it there.
Mm-hmm.
So it would have had significant repercussions in terms of changing the future. But it's just cool that they actually had an accurate thing that they were providing.
Yeah, transparent aluminium.
Yeah, it's nuts, dude. Like, I feel like it's not quite captured, I guess, because we're not trying to be too dramatic, but Earth is like on the brink of being destroyed here.
You'd think at the very least they would have organized an evacuation.
There's a lot of stuff that we don't see happen, but I think it's because of the fact that it really only functions as a reason to get us into the main point of this film.
Yeah, they have to get over this stuff quickly, I suppose.
Because I will say again, I don't know if it's because I've missed context from the seasons of the show, but how quickly they suggest time travel, I was like, excuse me?
Yeah, to be fair, it is something that's established in the show, and it uses the same exact mechanism as they do here, like a slingshot around the sun. So it's something they're aware of that they can do, but for obvious reasons, they don't like to mess around with it too much.
Well, so with anything to do with time travel, it unlocks about 1 billion questions. And I don't know if they've been dealt with before, but of course I was looking for something in this film in terms of like, how do you account for everything that can go wrong? And then why have you not used time travel? If you're going to use time travel to save Earth here, what stops you from using time travel for a lot of things?
Yeah. But yeah, I think it's just the danger of fucking destroying all of reality if you screw things up in the past. So that's why they're super reluctant to do it.
Oh, of course. And to be honest with you, I think they I don't even know if this is crisis enough to do it. Like, could we contact other, I guess, factions in the Federation to launch an attack on the probe with the knowledge that you can't get within a certain distance of it? That sort of thing. That could have been a whole movie. But they've gone this direction. That's fine. I'm obviously unclear on what exactly their rules are when it comes to time travel, both ethically and mechanically. At least a possibility.
So I like it gets to the point of like the whales pretty quickly, but it doesn't feel like super contrived and forced. Like it feels like a fairly logical chain of reasoning that they use to get to that point.
Well, so this is kind of what I was talking about with how I feel. I remember you describing this as the whale one, and other people have done that. And up to this point, I'd completely forgotten that was what was said about it. And so when they start playing the signal, and then he's like, "Oh, I think I recognize," and goes to check, I was like, "Oh, wait, whales, right? This is the whale one. I don't even know what that means, but this is like, that's somehow related." And I was like, "Okay, yeah, we got into the whale stuff now. So what does that mean?" And I think it plays out fine. It's just the overt lines of dialogue we could have done away with about, man was illogical to destroy the species that is the whale.
Yeah.
Just like, yeah, okay.
And I can put that through the filter of Spock just being like, well, he just states the obvious, particularly in the state of mind that he's in, where he's not like, he doesn't have the.
Well, it's funny because I think
grounding.
the sort of point of view that's being presented is actually more effectively translated when you don't have a character spell it out. Because the footage they have of like the whales getting cut up, I was like,
yes,
that's rough.
Yeah.
And then knowing that, of course, they're hunted to extinction, it's like, oh man. And it makes you feel and think things.
Yeah.
You ever play Age of Empires?
I think I did back in the day, yeah. It's been a while.
The thing about whales is when you spot them in the water and you have your guys throw spears at it until it's dead, you get so much meat from it. Like, it's just a really great resource. I'm just saying, okay?
Ever had a whale burger?
You can create a whole set, like 10 new guys from just one whale or whatever. It's great.
There's the temptations there, isn't it? They're just so juicy.
The answer is we have to clone them.
See, I like how they cover the idea that you could just like play them a recording of whales.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, well, we'd be responding in gibberish if we tried that. We need the actual animal.
Yeah, see, I feel like not enough is discussed on that front, but it's because we don't want to be doing that in this film. That's not what this story's about.
Yes.
Because, the other Star Trek film in the alternate universe is that they have to figure out a really clever way of defeating the probe.
Yeah, and, I wonder if almost it was a conscious decision on Nimoy's part, where it's like, I don't want I don't want to see spaceships firing phasers and stuff. Like, I just don't want it to be that kind of film at all.
Well, imagine they'd received a data pack as part of the transmission from Earth with a listing of all the different ways they've tried to assault the probe, and they were unsuccessful. If you just had that line,
yeah,
I'd be mostly settled at that point. But yeah, this shit, man, I was like, good God, Earth is losing like all of electric, and the water is being completely ionized. I was like, this is the end. I was like, we're in the apocalypse. And yeah, I think there's a whole other Star Trek film that's happening that we're not going to be privy to, but would be interesting to see. Like, what does it look like? You could make a Star Trek film that's just that. It would be pretty depressing, but just the destruction of Earth very casually, and what does it mean for the Federation and all the other planets and factions and stuff?
Yeah. Because, I mean, yeah, the Federation is far bigger than just Earth, obviously.
Yeah. But that's, I presume that's like humans' capital planet.
Yeah, and it's like the headquarters of Starfleet and everything. So, like, it'd be like, you know, be like a nuke dropped on Washington, D.C. or something. You know, America still exists. It's just like you've cut off a big part of the government there.
This summary from Bones, I was like, okay, that's what we're doing. All right.
It feels like a very modern day piece of dialogue, you know, like something so self-aware and like I'm just going to straight up call out what we're needing to do and how stupid it is.
I would say sure, but at the same time, I think that is actually Nimoy almost like Chad yesing it, being like, yeah, you think it sounds ridiculous, but like this is going to be the thing that we have to do to save the world, and we're going to do it,
Yeah.
damn it. Because I think if you gave that to someone outside of the context of everything we've seen in this film, they would say like that sounds like the stupidest fucking Star Trek film ever.
Yeah. And it proves that like a lot of it comes down to execution. You can make even like crazy ideas work really well if you do it properly.
Yeah, you could have like Harley Quinn not be cringe. It is possible.
The 23rd century and they're still using CRT monitors. I love it. I
love it more when they have the modern times and they maintain that tech. That's when it's really cool. It's like, look at you go. I was so disappointed in Prometheus when they had the hologram tech. I was like,
yeah.
Oh well, we gave up.
Yep.
Because it's funny as well, wouldn't it be cheaper? I know it would be annoying to acquire a lot of that stuff. I guess you could just remake it, right? Or at least make something that looks like it. But I assume it would be cheaper, and it creates an aesthetic that's so fucking cool.
Yeah, it's functional. It's gritty. It's what you'd expect from deep spacecraft from like that, you know.
What a nerd.
Yeah.
Oh, and I'd read, by the way, that some of the sound effects the probe makes, so Let It D-Boy, in like a booth just going like, which you just want to see it, don't you?
Oh, God, that must have been an amazing recording session to sit in on.
Just imagine that you have a guy who's like, I'm struggling to get the sound right, and you just go, fuck it, let me go in the booth.
So, just for your own reference, like the maximum theoretical speed you can get up to, like you can never get to warp 10 in this iteration of Star Trek. Like that's an infinite speed, if you know what I mean. Like the warp factor just keeps increasing exponentially. So like 9.999 is like the fastest you could ever go.
Okay.
I mean, if your spaceship is literally ripping itself apart, it's maybe time to slow down.
Whenever I see slingshot stuff in anything, I just think of Farscape.
Yeah.
Like, you better hope there's not a wormhole near here.
Yeah. It's just going to get way worse. This sequence always makes me kind of laugh because it's so trippy and weird. I don't quite know what they were going for.
Yeah, this did come out of left field. I was like, wait a minute, what?
It's like, did you just have some leftover CGI budget or something? I mean, it's obviously some of the things you're hearing are stuff that's not happened yet.
I had a feeling, yeah, that they were throwing some stuff from later.
Don't know what they were doing with this. Did you ever watch Vertigo, like the Alfred Hitchcock movie with Jimmy Stewart?
I can't remember if I've actually seen that movie anymore because I think my dad might have shown me it when I was super young, but it's on my to rewatch list, that one.
There's an absolutely bonkers, like psychedelic, trippy sequence where like Jimmy Stewart's head's floating through like this crazy kaleidoscopic background and stuff. Like, I don't know how to describe it, but it's just like, oh, you kind of have to experience it to see it. But it's it kind of gives me that sort of vibe.
So, did you know what are the ideas were for a story that involved time travel with Star Trek?
It was going to go back to the JFK assassination.
I feel like that's a horrible idea.
that was one of the reasons they gave Gene Roddenberry the TNG show. Like, okay, because every movie that they came up with, he kept suggesting that idea, and they're like, okay, could you just like fuck off? So we'll give you this TV show if you just leave us alone. You can work on that.
Because I think honestly though, if I were just in an advisory board and they suggested that, I'd be like, I don't know how we make that work, because on one hand they go back and save him, and it just feels weird and sad, I guess. And then on the other hand, they go back and decide, oh, we can't change this event. And
it's just so
like,
hackneyed as well. It's like, oh, out of all the world events you could choose, like, why that? Yeah. Like, it's just because it's a thing that's part of the American consciousness, I suppose. But like, Red Dwarf actually tackled that in an episode, and to be fair, they did it really well. Like, they prevent the assassination, but it ends up like causing like a war with the Soviet Union or something, like because he ends up being like kind of a shitty president once he gets his second term. And they end up like he has to like go back and assassinate himself essentially to restore the timeline, and it's a weird mix of comedy and like kind of poignant drama. It's quite good.
God, this guy, this engineer guy, he's always about the problems.
I know. Find me solutions, Scotty.
It was funny when he was saying this, I was like, oh, because we're going to need some problems to solve for other people, because we have to split them up probably.
We need that, and we need a limitation on the ship as well, so that it can't just be constantly zipping here, there, and everywhere. It's like it has to land because it can't fly anymore. Like its power source is gone.
And I will say, despite the fact this is the fourth film, I feel like this is the one that best represents the strength of Spock and Kirk as a duo. I think that we get strengths of them, of course, in Wrath of Khan, but like I absolutely fucking love their chemistry throughout this film.
Yeah, it's great. Like they're funny, they're dramatic, they're serious, they're poignant. Like they do everything. And it's two actors who are obviously super confident and comfortable playing off each other by this point. They know each other's moves.
They are so into the characters. They know the characters so well. And I feel like they get each other's timing really well as well.
Oh, yeah. Must be such a weird experience for Shatner to be directed by Nimoy.
Yeah. I think Nimoy had said this, it was difficult being like, invested, so to speak, emotionally in the construction of the film and people's performances, to then jump into the scene itself and play a character that's supposed to be reduced in that sort of fashion, back and forth. And I can't imagine ever wanting to act and direct at the same time unless the acting portion was much more limited. But being like a main character, because you get a lot of instances of that, like directing yourself as a main character almost.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously the previous film, it was quite easy for him in that respect because he wasn't in the bulk of it. I do like the fact that he gave himself the most comfortable outfit. It's just like this giant bathrobe. Yeah. I know what you're doing there, Leonard.
Dude, when he appeared in the whale tank, I was like, wait, what the fuck?
Yeah.
But whatever you see him do in this movie, you're just like, was that he wanted that? I guess he pushed for that. He got it.
Oh yeah. And like he carries it off with such like somber seriousness. It's just great. I love the bit with the swearing, like how it becomes a running gag. He doesn't understand when to do it appropriately.
That was also clever.
Yeah. I think in the original series, when they did a bit of time travel, they had him wearing like a beanie hat.
Yeah, seems like that's another opportunity to have, some character. Get him to say something. They're here, damn it. Get them to say things.
Yeah. Must be so frustrating for those actors. Like, oh God, is this the movie where I get to do something?
You're reading through the script, you're like, no lines, page over,
Yeah.
no lines, page over, no lines. I still can't get over the fact that Mark Hamill delivered, the TFA script, and he's like, wow, I don't have any lines.
Yeah.
Not fucking one. Got plenty of lines in TLJ, though.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I'm sure you had a field day with that one.
Mm-hmm. No, that's fun.
That's cool. It's a good effect.
The one thing that's regrettable is that we can't find a way to get the grass flat, because what they did there was really cool, and I'm trying to think of how you would solve that, especially in the 80s.
Yeah, you'd have to be in CGI territory today to make that happen.
Well, I was wondering about could you get away with like a big glass panel gets dropped on it at the same time as the effect of it going down?
I think it would be too
obvious.
Yeah, you'd see the glass reflected in the light.
Well, it looks great. It's just because I love solving problems like that with much more practical shit. Because part of it is I think that this is part of the problem between CG and practical is when anything is ever CG, we all automatically are like, so you were on a computer and you did work, okay. With practical, we can actually like envision how they did it mechanically, like what tools, what materials, what like pulleys, strings, or tricks of lights, different reflections, mirrors, and stuff, and you're just like, oh, that's so neat.
Yeah, and a lot of the time you probably can sense that they had to take quite a few swings at it to get it right.
Yeah,
it's like you think, I really respect the work that had to go in there, and
which is honestly a shame, because there is, once you get to understand fully like everything that goes into CG, you'll know like a similar aspect is in there, right, in terms of all the crazy tools and revelations they have with how to do everything, but we're just not as privy to that. So it's hard to recognize. Like there are people out there who are so familiar with CG that when they see it in certain stuff, they go, "Oh shit, they used the blah 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 system, which is actually way better than blah 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 because there's blah blah." And we're just sitting like, yeah, sure." But yes, this would save on budget because they get to film authentically.
Yeah, just hanging around the street.
So,
I love how awkward they look there, actually.
Yeah. Oh, it's captured really well. They're all just like, "What the fuck are we doing?" I love that line.
Yeah.
I also love this bit too. And isn't it interesting? It's Spock that highlights the sentimental value.
Yeah.
It's stuff like that I way prefer, because it makes you wonder about just how much of the balance is truly within the character.
Yeah, it's like, I suppose he intellectualizes all this stuff, so he knows, like, as a matter of logic, humans are attached to things, gifts and so on, and like, so that would mean something to him.
That's the fun of the character, right? Like, there can always be an explanation.
This was very convenient, but I can get behind it.
Well, so this is a bit of the attitude I think the film has about a couple of the hard to explain things. It's like, yes, but we got a fun joke out of it.
Yeah.
Because this is another good one.
Yeah. What do they mean, exact change? He just looks so disturbed.
Yeah.
Now, I think there was going to be some more scenes for Sulu here where he gets to meet some like ancestor of his, because he mentions that he was born in San Francisco, so his family probably was from here. And it was either not filmed or it was cut from the final edit, which is a shame. It would have given him a bit more because he's a very underused character.
He's a bit of a diva as well, right? In terms of wanting stuff.
But he is, yeah.
At least I would say like he gets barely anything. So I don't know. I guess I'd probably want to try and push for something.
This apparently was real. I think he was talking to real people here, like, and they didn't know that they were being filmed.
Well, this is just fucking hilarious.
A guy with a Russian accent looking for a nuclear base.
To an American cop who's just like, what the hell? We're looking for nukes.
That's what I said.
Do you know the story behind that lady as well?
No.
So again, because you read the strangest things. Apparently, when they were looking for, like, she's an extra who had acted like basically never before, and she wasn't even supposed to speak really, but she had her car towed away when they were making room for the film's production. And so she was offered like the chance to just be an extra, as I guess, as sort of like payback. And well, I guess she needed the money, right? So they would have paid for her to do that, so she get it all sorted out. And I mean, this is fucking great as well, though. Shut the fuck up. Everyone's just
round of applause for Spock.
Yeah, so she was just told to improvise, just give an answer, and there wasn't necessarily the intention of keeping it, but Leonard Nimoy liked her answer so much, he was just like, it just feels really genuine. I'm just gonna fucking leave it in.
Yeah, I love how you can see the reflection of the camera operator there in the window.
No, that's you're seeing shit, man. That's not that.
Yeah, it's crazy. I know.
That is the way we talk.
It's great because Kirk clearly has no fucking clue what he's talking about, but he's like, I just have to act like I'm totally on top of this one. Yeah, I understand how 20th century people deal with each other.
And here she is, our new character.
Yay!
Something cool about this was I was reading something and I was at first kind of like, oh no, which was she made effort essentially to not see any context for Star Trek, both movies and TV shows, before doing this role. But then you find out that the idea behind that was that she wanted to, as authentically as possible, react to all this stuff that she gets to know as like,
I think that makes total sense.
Yeah, that's an instance where it's like, oh yeah, that matches.
Because you're playing a person from planet Earth who's never heard of any of this stuff. So yeah, totally fine.
And what she did do was find out as much as she could about whales.
Okay.
Did a bunch of research on it. I think even to the point where she became semi-interested in activism related to whales after this film.
Oh God,
you never
remember
know.
This. Remember when actors really took their role seriously?
Well, that's the crazy thing. She's not like I imagine that she didn't have to do that. That was important, but like she did it.
See, if this was made today, right? The person playing Kirk would be like, "Yeah, so I made a point of never watching Star Trek, and I didn't want to, taint my performance with that sort of thing."
I mean, if anything, Star Trek is just such an old and antiquated. You wouldn't want to be bogged down by its.
Yeah. I see what you mean. It's pretty unpleasant stuff to watch.
I really think the video itself does a good job of getting you to feel what they want, especially like that shot as well. And see, like the context of this being descriptive, like this is just facts about whales, and make of it what you will. But then It just gets a little bit more of it as it goes on.
Yeah. I was just thinking about that scene where he gets into the tank with the whales and like Kirk's reaction.
Yeah, I mean,
so good.
So I mean, this film is funny. Like it's very funny. I think the other films have good comedy in them, but this one just crosses the line into like this is downright recommendable just for the comedy.
Yeah, but it never becomes ridiculous. It's not like a parody.
No, it's all character based stuff. Like the reason that this stuff is funny is because of the fact that we know that that is the thing the character would say or do.
Yeah. The wide shot that you saw there of like the pool with the whales in it, just briefly, like with the ocean next to it, it's all done with composites, but it looks great. Like I have to say, like a static shot like that worked really well.
I had a feeling it might have been that. There was just one flicker of water that I thought looks interesting, but the fact that it can pass that well is definitely a good job they've done. Where is Mr. Spock? You can tell there's a green screen there.
Yeah.
But that's okay.
Again, it doesn't look terrible. It's just, you can see the difference.
Mm-hmm. He's already like, where the fuck did he go? Still got the headband on as well. And see, this I think was just like, look, I did it. All right, that's proof right there. I've been there. Because I think Kirk does a bit of swimming underwater later in the film, right?
Towards the end, yeah. And it's definitely Shatner.
Well, what's so interesting about that is like, I think if it were done these days, an actor of their ages, like they just wouldn't be allowed. I don't think. It would just be like, nah.
Probably, yeah.
Safety, regulation, contracts, insurance, just no, we're not even going to risk it. And I feel like that fun of filmmaking is something we will actually never be able to get back. Other than maybe in indie films.
I fear you might be right on that one.
And I don't want to be too cynical about it. Like I get why it's happened. It's good to keep people safe. I hate hearing about anyone getting hurt on film sets and all that. It's just that it wipes out a lot of special things we can do as well.
I love how this is their topic of conversation.
Yeah.
Like, when there's all this like world-ending shit going on that they have to deal with. Like, try not to swear so much.
Because there is a bit of resetting Spock as well, which I think is good to take advantage of.
Yeah.
Isn't it nuts to think, like, we would have lost Spock permanently if certain people's points of view had gone through, like, by the time you hit the second movie?
Oh, for sure, yeah. Like, what? what a loss that would have been to like the rest of the series and just like Star Trek in general. Like we, presumably Nimoy wouldn't even have come back as the director or anything, so we wouldn't have got these movies.
This is what I mean about like.
That's very on the nose, and
yeah, like it's like that's what makes me laugh. I'm just like, I get it, I got it. I feel like there are better ways of doing that.
Yeah,
because some people aren't aware that whales are intelligent. You know, that's fine. There's a way to get that in the script for sure. But I don't know that was it.
That is a nice shot.
Yeah,
all those gigantic aircraft carriers there.
The amount of times he says nuclear whistle in this film.
Oh, that was a nice little touch as well.
Have you seen Babylon 5? I can't remember.
Yeah, mostly.
It's just crazy that Walter Koenig, I would have known him way more from that than this.
Oh yeah, he was like he was a secret police guy, wasn't he?
Yeah, the like the mind powers and stuff.
Didn't do a huge amount outside of Star Trek. I guess he was one of the other guys who got typecast quite badly, but yeah, it was nice that he got to like play a different character in Babylon 5.
Mm-hmm. Something I need to rewatch. It's been a while.
Oh yeah. It's one of those ones that people keep pointing to rightly as like one of the best sci-fi TV shows ever made. It's like, yep, the visuals didn't hold up great, but in terms of character work and writing,
the sheer scale of the story, it's almost like unprecedented. The kind of thing that we're lucky we got that.
Yeah.
Right place, right time.
Do you hear that line from Shatner there?
Oh, hell yes.
Yeah. Again, like he's so confident in himself, like, oh yeah, I can pass off myself as a 20th century guy.
Yeah, it's like he read some bits and bobs that he's trying to take in. It's like, yeah, I got this. Yeah, the whole back and forth of this car ride is great.
Yep.
They're just like, what?
What's a tire iron?
Memory problems.
Yeah, so he's laying the groundwork here,
trying
to find out what he can do to help.
So I photographic memory. I see words. I was like, you didn't have to do it that way. It would have maybe been cooler if she paraphrased it, but caught the important parts, right? And
I mean,
I guess it's
her demonstrating, like, although it's very like clunky, it's like I can literally remember the exact phrasing you used.
Well, how much does that come up in this film? Is this like a important element of it?
Absolutely zero.
What I'm highlighting is that I feel like we didn't need to invent that she has photographic memory to explain why she remembered exactly what he said, as opposed to you'd argue it stuck out to her because of the fact that it was so crazy what they said about whales, and she cares about whales. You know, she didn't have to like get it word for word. It's all right.
Spock does not like Italian food.
And so do you.
That's what I mean. Like the interplay between them, the timing and stuff is just perfect. Like these guys just know each other's beats.
Yeah, I mean, the funny thing is, like, you could do a whole film of those two just walking around a town, city, whatever, doing weird things. It's like, why don't we just do that? Because it does feel like there was a deliberate idea here of trying to not only give them something to do, but something that relates to their skill set, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Which is I think, absolutely the direction we want to take. I just I feel like if we could have just made it a bit more dense with stuff for these guys.
Yeah.
Because I love every second of Scotty as well.
Yeah, I just love how he goes off on this big old rant.
Yeah. What is it?
Millions of miles.
Thousands.
When he's dicking around with the computer as well, it's awesome. When he's trying to talk into the mouse.
But yeah, because I mean, just basic questions, right? Like, they could have gone back in time and revealed all information to humanity to get them starkly ahead of themselves and change all of the future forever. Is there a reason why they can't do that?
Yeah.
And of course, I think most people, when trying to write this, would be like, "Well, you can't go changing the future that significantly." That it's like, yeah, but you can't really change the future at all, though, can you? You're not supposed to. And by being here alone, you are absolutely changing it.
Yeah, their attitude of this film is like, oh, like little white lies and stuff. It's okay. Like,
I think it's just a matter of, can you let us get away with this? And as far as I'm concerned, is like, I don't let anyone get away with anything typically, but I do find you quite entertaining. So I'll just accept.
If you go by the predetermination model, then this guy literally is the guy who invents transparent aluminium. In which case, they are just fulfilling history as it was meant to be. It's never really explained one way or the other.
If they were going that direction, sure, but I'm pretty sure that this guy cannot, within human history, is absolutely not. We're out by about 20 years for this breakthrough sort of thing.
Well, this guy would still be alive 20 years from now, or 20 years from the point of this film.
Well, sure, but he's going to invent it 20 years early, which will have drastic effects on all of industry, right?
Well, no, because he mentions at one point it would take years, if not decades, to figure out how to actually manufacture it. Like, Scotty can show him the sort of chemical makeup of it, but like they have to actually find a way to make the stuff, and that's going to take years. He says as much himself. So I can buy into that. Then it's like they give him the initial idea and show him how it can be done, but he then has to like put in place the technology to actually manufacture it.
Yeah, in that case, then, so they are trying to go with the they were always here. Like, this always happened.
Yeah, I think so. Well, I think you can get away with that model.
Well, yeah, as long as you don't have any overt contradictions. That's a lot of what time travel stuff does. Like, Back to the Future is very unique in the whole waves of time catching up to the future thing. That matches their sort of interest in storytelling. Then there's something like Endgame, which is fucked up in terms of trying to understand what the hell the time travel in that even was.
Oh, yeah. The rules make no sense there. I'm actually surprised they were able to do that scene without showing James Doohan having missing fingers. It's something you probably don't see very often, but he lost like 2 or 3 fingers during World War II.
I think there was one shot where you can make it out. And in fact, I think it's like a factoid. It's the only shot in all of Star Trek that he's involved with that you can actually see it. It's when he holds up the mouse, I think.
But yeah, so this guy just said here, like, it would take years to just figure out this matrix that you've shown me. Fuck off.
Yeah, the logic being that he was always meant to give him the formula.
I love that little smile from
Well, the thing
Bones
is,
there.
if I were in this scenario, I would be like, let's just get this shit done and go. I don't know,
Yeah.
like at
But
this point.
you know, there's something just really appealing about the fact that these are like old men who should be like super sensible and like conservative about all this stuff, and they're kind of like, fuck it, let's just do it. You know?
Things are already a bit out of hand.
Yeah. Ooh, I feel like you beamed them up a little bit quick there.
Well, the further it goes on, the more amazing things they can do with beaming, right? Like in the 2009 canon film to the franchise, where they're doing all kinds of crazy beaming.
Well, I'm thinking more like she would straight up see that in her rear view mirror if she happened to be looking behind there, but
Yeah, I guess because they're not intending to reveal anything to her yet, right?
no.
And what you were bringing up, by the way, about his lost finger, it's always kind of nice watching a lot of classic films that go back just enough that you're like, oh yeah, shit, some of the main actors here like fought in the war.
Yeah. I mean, this is like the 1980s, so like obviously he's older, but like he's dude lost fingers in World War II. This is crazy. Damn, that would have to be a seriously big plane to transport whales.
Especially with the weight, the water, which is brought up in this movie.
It is, yeah. I mean, you got to hand it to Kirk. This has got to be a pretty difficult subject to broach.
Yeah.
It's like, so I've got a spaceship that can travel through time, and I'm going to take them like forward in time by 300 years and drop them off there.
So, possibly my favorite factoid about this movie that I read about this area, this restaurant, right?
Yeah.
They ordered pizza. And so they needed to make sure the restaurant they were filming in had a pizza oven. You know, it's what we could call authenticity. And they didn't have one. So Paramount bought one and installed a pizza oven into the kitchen in this movie for this restaurant. The oven was actually given to them, and once the film was completed, they were allowed to keep it. The oven appears in the film for 5 seconds of a shot.
I was gonna say, because every shot is like the background is just totally out of focus. Like this could be anywhere.
This shit to me, I feel like, is what we're at right now, but way worse. Like that's an example of just how the fuck did you guys make this decision? Who needs the pizza oven? We don't need the pizza oven. Who's the one that like signed all the things that made this a thing? Because it would have taken like money,
a lot of money,
fucking effort for something that doesn't matter at all. And I feel like these days we do thousands of stuff like that now, where that's what kills budgets.
Yeah,
it's just so funny to think about. But hey, the restaurant got a pizza oven, so.
That is true, yeah. I hope that restaurant's still doing well.
Does she appear in any more of the movies?
Sadly, she does not. And then it's a shame because I like the actress.
Yeah, I find her she's a bit of fun. Although it is interesting, she gets a lot of time in this movie. I'd say she gets more time in this movie than Sulu, Uhura, and possibly Scotty put together.
I think probably she does. I mean, obviously she's a major character. We need her. And I like the fact that they keep building up like the relationship between her and Kirk, but ultimately it doesn't go anywhere. Like she pretty much says, "Yeah, I'm off to be a scientist now. Bye."
Yeah, I was
He
going to
doesn't
say, because
get the
that's kind of why I
girl.
was bringing it up. I was like, it does feel like the end of the film implies that they will meet again. It's like, well, maybe.
I think, yeah, I think that was a decision on Nimoy's behalf. Like that, there's not like a big romantic scene where Kirk gets the girl. She pretty much says, "Goodbye, see you later. I've got stuff to do," and he's almost got this look on his face of like, "Oh, fuck, didn't expect that."
The lady is strong and independent, Drinker. Is that a problem for you?
I love it in this movie. I just it fits perfectly with the tone of it.
Good.
That one line was the basis of so many arguments from fucking bread tubers to like wannabe communists on social media. Like, see, it's proof that like Star Trek is a communist society because they don't have money, and it was just literally a dumb throwaway line from Kirk in this film.
Well, funny enough, I did read something about that. The idea of having no currency is to try and come from a place where we've solved like all issues or whatever. But they needed, I think it was TNG and Deep Space Nine, certain storylines. They basically just like, we have to have a form of currency right now
Well, you have
because
to have limitations on what people can buy
yeah,
or whatever, like
it
because
just
otherwise every person would have a fucking starship to themselves. Like, clearly, that's
well, it
not
creates a lot of
possible.
problems. Currency is a really good equalizer for value. Like it helps people
Yeah.
understand, because so many different exchanges and trades are going on at every level of all of civilization that it helps people as a shorthand. And
Yeah.
so, like, I can understand an idealistic sort of, we don't need currency because now we've reached a point where everybody is able to be provided everything. And you're just like, yeah, but okay, show me that in practice.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's like difficult.
I get look because it's a post scarcity society. It's not
Yeah.
where like a place where everything's enforced equality or anything. Like people can still have jobs of greater or equal or lesser merit or whatever. It's maybe just that like the acquisition of wealth is less important there than it is in our time. I mean, I think if it was me, I'd probably show her the ship to prove that I'm telling the truth.
I presume he's got a concern about the repercussions of doing something like that that maybe are even unforeseen, but obviously it kind of works out.
Yeah. I'm just thinking more like if time's against you, it's like, and I
Yeah.
need this person to cooperate with me. I really need to prove to her that I'm telling the truth, and like this is all real, as fantastical as it might seem. It is super lucky as well that literally no one goes through this park. Like nobody walks into the ship or anything.
I mean, yeah, it's you just lucked out. Yeah, we're fine. It's just walking around in the pathways.
Interesting his reaction there. It's like he recognizes that Kirk's super pissed off with him, and he is questioning, like, well, what does my human side tell me about this? Should I have like an actual emotional investment in this? Or am I just going to be purely logical about it?
The phone call is coming from inside the house. You know, because I had obviously I don't know anything that's going to happen in these films, which is always fun for me. So when I was watching this and she stood up to be beamed out, I was like, "Yeah, he ain't getting beamed out."
Yeah,
that's like one of the most obvious tells of a piece of drama we're going to do.
yeah.
But we get to do something fun with it.
Oh, the interrogation scene is brilliant. I think, and I could be wrong about this, I think a lot of it was ad-libbed by Walter Koenig. Yeah, I really wish Uhura got more to do in this one, particularly. I feel like she always gets shortchanged.
Yeah, I think it's a shame because there's always going to be room for just even a couple of lines for it, but she doesn't get much at all. She's plenty to explore with it because you get that cool moment in Search for Spock for her. I feel like just a few of those, that's all we need, you know? Do they tell us what happens to his phaser, Chekhov's? Because
it's not a phaser, it's his communicator, I think.
well, it's remember he tries to use it as a phaser and it like breaks or whatever, it jams. And I think Kirk did say that all of these are equipped with like phasing technology or whatever, that everyone was supposed to be getting one.
Oh, yeah, I kind of assumed that Uhura had taken the phaser and the collector thing with her, and like what he's got is just a communicator, and he's almost trying to bluff his way out and pretend like it's a weapon.
Oh well, whatever it is, because he doesn't he throw it to them and then he ends up in the hospital. So because this is something that you can't really get away with the sort of predetermined they were always here sort of thing. Like this technology is well ahead of everything. We don't even have that kind of technology now, or probably don't.
That's fair enough. He does seem like he thinks it's going to work. So
I don't think it was a bluff. I think he did think it was going to work because obviously, if it were a bluff, he would just never fire it, like keep threatening it.
I did love how they're talking to each other, and it's like, yeah, of course he's a Rusky, but he's like a retard or something.
That did catch me off guard when I was watching.
Like, there's a line you wouldn't get nowadays.
Oh, dude, I miss when retard was in films and TV. It got removed. It's not fair. It's such a funny word.
It's amazing to think this is the inside of an aircraft carrier. It's absolutely fucking huge. That's definitely not him.
Like, that little fall as well. That's almost like a classic of we could do X. It's got to be better than that. It's like like what they were talking about with always overestimate so that you can do it faster.
Yeah, I think that was one instance where he's just like he gave the actual real truth.
Yeah,
like again with the time limits.
So I thought this part was interesting, right? Because it creates a sense of drama, not knowing where the whales are and stuff. But do you believe that this guy would have done this without telling her anything about it?
I can buy into it because he knows that she's like too close to this thing, and it's better that they just let them go.
See how he seems like worried already because he knows how she's going to react.
Yeah.
Because I think that they were planning on releasing them anyway, right? So
yeah, so like he obviously is of the mindset like they're just animals, like we're gonna let them go and they can take their chances. That's the best we can do for them. And he knows that she's like super invested in them emotionally, and maybe he just felt like it was better that they, let them go. She's not there, like having a big tearful goodbye, and like the press aren't there. So I can buy in that he would do that.
I just,
just that was just so unnecessary, but just really funny at the same time.
well, it's also just like one of the, possibly the most notable thing that Sulu does in the film.
Yeah,
it's like, oh yeah, I remember that bit.
It's very convenient that she shows up at this moment.
And yes, this is quite a thing to see. That's perfectly normal, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. Break out the mime routine.
Yeah, it's because it's like there's a couple ways you could do it. You try and push her over or whatever with something, so it makes it look a bit more realistic. But I guess best way to do it probably is get the actress to do a pratfall.
Yeah. I mean, nowadays, like they would have some like weird visual effect where it like shimmers or something when she hits it.
Yeah. Always fun to have a brand new, fresh perspective on the craziness that is Star Trek in a way.
Yeah. I mean, what I like, I guess, about Kirk as a character, he feels so much more accessible for this sort of thing than someone like Picard would be. Because he's so like, officious and stuffy and pompous and stuff. Like it just like he wouldn't even be able to relate to a person like this. Whereas, Kirk can kind of reach her. I guess he kind of knows how to like at least give her enough that she can understand what's going on here.
Is this Kirk bias I'm detecting? Should I feel the need to defend Picard?
No, he is. Kirk is objectively the better captain.
I assume that would be the overwhelming sort of vote from Star Trek fans because Kirk, I think he captures. I don't think he captures as well as Picard does the assertive, very intelligent sort of stuff, but he's close enough while also capturing the very human and heart sort of stuff.
Like for me, and it definitely is a Kirk bias, like being fair on my part, but like he was just always like the working class kind of captain. Like he's not like super educated, and he's not he doesn't study Shakespeare in his spare time and read philosophy and stuff. He's very much just like a regular person. Very good at what he does and very intelligent, but like just much more accessible, I think, than someone like Picard is. And I think Picard is a great character in his own right, for sure. It's just Kirk always appealed to me more.
It's a great Bones moment here.
Yeah. He just gives her a pill, and then it's like, that's that fixed.
Grows a kidney for it.
Yeah.
What about Cisco?
Cisco's an interesting one. I think he gets put through the most difficult moral dilemmas in the course of like Deep Space Nine. He was always a bit of a halfway house between someone like Kirk and Picard. I think I was less drawn towards Deep Space Nine because it didn't have the exploration aspect. It was much more of a political thing. So my knowledge of him isn't quite as good, but I think his portrayal by Avery Brooks was excellent. And like I've seen some of his finest episodes.
From my tertiary knowledge of all of Star Trek, I do see a lot of people saying he's like the sleeper hit sort of thing for.
He is, yeah.
Surprise sort of like that's actually my favorite captain sort of pick for a lot of people.
Yeah, I don't think many people pick Janeway.
I can't remember what stream it was, but someone asked me what my favorite Star Trek captain was, not knowing that I knew barely anything about Star Trek, and I think I said Cisco. Just as a meme, and loads of people in chat were like, fucking based. Like, get wrecked.
Yeah.
You beat him in the marketplace of ideas.
In terms of the medical techno babble, like, yeah, Bones wins for sure. It's great though that they're kind of able to communicate on some kind of equal footing. It's just like he's got.
This might be the funniest line in the whole thing, but not for intentional reasons. Like, you have Kirk do that, which is so overtly like, oh, I see the lock has been fucked with. But they're like, we better have a character exclaim that, even though he wouldn't know what just happened. Like, he had no idea. He was like, he melted the lock. I love shit like that. Yeah, I think something that could be in these films but isn't as present is more establishing connections between different characters. Like, would have been cool throughout even the four of them to just have two out of the four crew members that don't get as much time just having something of a connection that they talk to each other about. Like, you know, Kirk clearly cares about the entire crew, but it'd be really cool to have individual scenes of him recognizing their characteristics or the reason why they're a part of the crew a little bit more strong. You know, like how Scotty stands out with a couple of his scenes in Wrath of Khan because they're so good. It's just like, I want more of those. Give me more of everybody.
Yeah, I think again, it's one of the things that they sacrifice in favor of like more scenes with Kirk and Spock and McCoy, and you know the female lead as well in this one. Just not giving us enough time with these guys, and it, like you say, it could be done relatively efficiently and quickly, just to give us a bit more to connect to them and some more individuality to them.
There she is.
Yeah. Oh, she's probably been dead for decades now, that actress.
Oh, dude, there's a really sad factor of watching a film like this where I get nice and immersed just enjoying it, and then I'm like, fuck, this came out like a million years ago. Like, everyone's dead.
Well, most of the main cast are gone now as well, sadly. We've still got Shatner. He'll be alive probably when we're dead.
I hope so. I hope he never dies. Keep making TV and movies.
Yeah. But yeah, we've lost McCoy, we've lost Spock.
I don't give a fuck. I want to go to the future. Give me. I'm going to be honest with you. I would be very tempted if I had a moment I could go to like 100 years in the future, or whatever.
I mean, it's a hell of a thing to jump into. Like,
well,
you don't know what the hell the place is going to look like
because you got kids. You're not allowed to go, but I might be able to.
What do you mean not allowed to? I do what I want.
So yeah, I was going to ask about this mechanically. Like, is there any danger in jumping on someone while they're beaming up?
I mean, you kind of imagine, like, oh god, are they going to come out the other end like some horrible entity that's fused together or something? I don't think so. Like, you can beam a person as touching another person, it's okay. They'll just come out as they were, unless something goes horribly wrong. So it's fine. The transporters have got lots of safeguards to prevent any, dangers like that.
Mm-hmm.
There's even times like if you were to beam, like say when you were firing a phaser or whatever, it will automatically disarm the phaser, so it doesn't like come out the other end and like shoot someone. But yeah, like with the JJ movies, it just gets ridiculous where you can like beam someone when they're in free fall or whatever nonsense.
I mean, it works the same with every last piece of tech that you find in any of this stuff. It's like, you gotta have your limits. It makes the drama that much more interesting because we have to solve problems.
And yeah, you can obviously like the more mass you want to beam, the more energy it takes, and like the limited your range is.
Yeah, and the more that you push, you're like, Scotty's like, I found the Bigarium batteries and I put them into it, and now we can beam across entire galaxies in split seconds with no coordinates, up or down, left or right. We can do it all now, and that's the big payoff for a movie. It's like, well, I mean, what's the next film gonna do? Thanks.
Yeah, Star Trek used to be really good at just maintaining the limitations of things without. They'd advance it a little bit over time, but not too much where it breaks the universe.
It's genuinely like a writing thing that just spans across all of storytelling. Everyone in every medium has to deal with this because it's so easy to be like, yeah, that sword from season 1 is really cool, but this sword is even better, and it comes from the minds of blah, 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 and it was blah, blah, blah. And you're like, okay, so I mean, season 1 sword was shit, fine. It's not that interesting anymore. And then same thing next thing just makes it more exciting, but has the, for every action has an equal and opposite reaction, or whatever that science man said.
Yes,
that guy. He knows what's up.
Newton guy.
Yeah.
See what would have been nice? A bit of dialogue between Uhura and her.
Yeah, this is a perfect opportunity.
It's like, so what do you do? What's all this crazy stuff you got around you?
The nature of the fact that she's coming to the 23rd century now. It's just like, are you ready for this? Do you know what that means? Like, and the fact that she said there's like no one for me here. It's like, explore that. It's like, what do you mean there's nobody? Like, do you have a family, friends?
Yeah, you just.
And she's like, no, my whole life is whales.
Yeah, just all about the whales. Oh, it's an evil boat.
I hate evil boats.
Honestly, I think if I was Kirk, I'd probably just fucking photon torpedo that boat. Like, sorry, guys, I've got bigger things to deal with right now.
I guess the thing I was thinking about was, just what do you think if you're on that boat after this? Like, what?
I'm giving up drinking. That happened to me.
And the thing is, it's almost a perfect amount of people on the boat, because if it were 1, nobody's gonna believe you. 2, you're probably both lying. 3, it still feels like it's like, and 4. It's like so the 4 of you are claiming you all saw this and this happened and stuff, and they all know each other and saw it. It's just like, what do they do for the rest of their lives? It's just like aliens. I don't know. The aliens prevented us from capturing the whales.
I was always a little bit confused as well by the nationality of these guys. Like, are they meant to be like Norwegian or something?
They're whalers. That's their nationality.
They're speaking in whaler language. I'm pretty sure they don't yell to each other in English.
See, the whales know what's up.
Yeah, they're like, oh shit, man, we're done for. We're about to get harpooned.
It is it's pretty bold though. The big action payoff of this is I hope the whalers don't hit the whales with their harpoons.
Yeah.
This shit, man. I just don't know what I would say or think or do about this. Like, what? That looks really good, by the way.
It does, yes. Decent.
Guys, I think we should go the other way.
I am in the wrong line of work.
You just kind of want on the speaker just Kirk to be like, please leave.
Yeah.
You are not welcome here.
We know where you live.
Wailing bad. And we got him.
I do remember as a kid thinking it'd be really funny if he got the coordinates slightly wrong and it just like beamed them straight into his room. It's like fucking water everywhere.
Yeah.
That's a good idea, Spock.
Because that's the thing, man. When you have them going for this long, it is easy and difficult to have them talk because the chemistry is always going to be there. But it's like you have to find new ways to sort of keep banking on the same conclusions about the characters and their relationships.
I think probably like Spock dying and then getting reborn in a slightly like reset, like he's back to his factory defaults, is a good way of tackling this because he's kind of rediscovering his relationships with all of these people. Like he sort of remembers them, but he doesn't really have the same level of grounding as he had before.
Is it just me, or is Kirk like, hey, I think it's time for us to, start dating now?
Yeah. It's like, we might be dead soon, so, how about we head to my quarters for a little while? Yeah, you can't get that feeling that like they deliberately went the opposite path by the end, where he's trying to woo her and he's giving her the look.
He's got the charm going.
Thinking he's still got the old Kirk magic, and maybe he doesn't quite anymore. He's a bit older. She's all about the whales.
All about that science. I will say, being that she is someone who's interested in marine biology, presumably, fast forwarding, just like any of us, fast forwarding 100 years, it is kind of funny to say we would want to know about world events and everything, but we would also be like, okay, what is the history of film in the last 100 years? Like, what happened to Disney?
Kathleen Kennedy's still working at Lucasfilm.
Dude, could you imagine if someone was like, who's like familiar with all of it, goes, Disney? Oh, I think I remember that. You'd be like, oh my God, what happened?
You do actually find it in TNG, like the television and movies didn't actually survive beyond the sort of mid 21st century. I think they all died out. So they maybe don't even have movies in Star Trek land.
I suppose that's not impossible with the advancements in like other forms of entertainment. VR, simulation.
They got holodecks. So the moment you get that sorted out for porn, like
if it down to the point where you literally anything you could possibly imagine perfectly simulated, it's like, yeah, I think TV and film are dead then.
Yeah.
Though I suppose I could. I'm trying to think of like the nature of maybe if I imagine my own TV show and then show you it, you know, like that would still exist maybe.
Yeah, but maybe not in like the sense of like going to a movie theater or anything.
No,
sitting in front of the TV.
It'd probably be me sending it to you via VR mail.
Or you'd create a holodeck program for me to experience.
You know, I hope we still manage to maintain the whole, even at that level of the future, sitting down, having a drink, and watching a movie.
Yeah.
I hope that manages to stay. Have you seen those like dystopian fucking images of people with the VR goggles on at like restaurants? That shit's so creepy.
I know. It's awful.
It's like, talk to each other, look at each other, please.
Be in the real world for a change. This is effectively your big action scene for the movie.
Yeah, sort of. Because this is all we get close to like a tragedy, but you know, we do make it through it. Then we have our almost skirting the line of like almost cheesy, you know, woohoo in the water, and everyone's like, yeah, we did it.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't feel right without pushing us a little to scary elements, right? It's like, Scotty's not replying. What's happening? I think it would be say goodbye to this ship.
Yeah, done them proud, I think.
Mm.
You know,
Christopher Lloyd must be so proud that his. Yeah. I don't even mean that as a joke. The character himself, I bet he'd be fucking furious to know that his ship goes on to save the human race.
Yeah. I think it's great as well, like because you felt bad when the Enterprise got self-destructed in Search for Spock, and you know you got to know this ship a little bit as well, and like it's all the problems they had to try and solve with it, and the things it was able to do for them. It's like, okay, it's got a little bit of personality now, and you feel kind of sad that it's going to sink. But
it's really cool to have done this. The three things that come to mind in my head, right, are like the standard main ship that everyone tends to care about because it's the ship that they were given, like an Enterprise or a Millennium Falcon. But then having an enemy ship that you spend enough time in, like I can't even think of another example of this, that you kind of care about the ship even though it was designed to kill you previously. That's kind of cool. Yeah. And then of course, like someone like Farscape with Talon, like what they do with that is really fucking cool as well.
Oh yeah.
And I think it goes to show there's a lot of untapped potential to take advantage of with ships instead of just they are our car, our nondescript space cars. Like there's more than that.
Yeah, give them a little bit of personality and away you go. People bond with things like that just surprisingly easily.
Yeah. Well, that's how we get to it's red. The lightsaber is red. It's like same stuff, but you know you can put meaning into these things instead of just making them cool, but also make them cool.
Yeah.
We did it.
Woohoo. I like that whole sequence didn't really go on for very long, but just enough, a little bit of tension. I wonder if Shatner was really concerned about his wig, how it would look in the underwater scenes. You know, it's like, it might fall off.
Looks pretty good, I guess.
Think so, yeah.
Yay.
Go Wales.
Wales is pretty cool.
Look at them doing their whale thing. It's funny that he's saying that because it's like a human on the surface would have no clue if the whales are singing or not. Like they're underwater.
Well, I mean, this is a fucking baffling thing that's happening for Earth right now. They don't know what this team is up to, or the whales and stuff. It's like, yeah.
A Klingon bird of prey just landed in San Francisco Bay, and now there's whales here. I don't know. Again, I go back to the whole like subtitles thing. Can you imagine what the studio would put in here?
This is apparently accurate to how whales sing.
I'll take the word for that.
I believe whale activists were happy with the portrayal of this, but were not happy with some of the shots because they would have been too close to have acquired them, which means they may have upset the whales.
Ooh.
I guess it's kind of funny, right? You work really hard to make a film that has like advocates for whales, and then like the people who have been doing it for a while, like, fuck your film, you did this. You're like, ugh.
Well, I mean, I always assumed these ones were just animatronics. Like,
oh yeah, I'm talking about.
Pretty...
I assume it's the shots where they were dealing with the harpoon guys.
Oh yeah. Yay, the ball went away.
Equilibrium has been reached.
Just imagine how that looks in the script. Like, the ball goes into the giant cigar and then it flies away.
As with a lot of films, I think if Nimoy was in full charge of a lot of this stuff, I think a lot of people would be like, yeah, we're doing that? Okay, sure. He's like, it'll work. You're like, yeah.
Yeah, because honestly, I think this whole concept could have been so fucking farcical and laughable if it had been handled differently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I do kind of find myself wondering what happened to all the spaceships that got disabled along the way. Like, did they come back to life, or are they just gone?
As with the lack of detail as to the response from Earth and the rest of the Federation to this enormous probe that was dealing significant damage to the world, the recovery is also kind of, it's like, yeah, woohoo. You're like, okay. This is our everything is so wonderful moment.
Yeah, apparently this bit where like he pulls Nimoy into the drink here, like he didn't want to go. It was like Shatner like grabbed him and pulled him in.
You can imagine this, like, fuck you,
He's
stop,
like,
stop.
Yeah, he's like, come, you're going in, you son of a bitch.
And you know what's funny about that is you could easily see that as just being in character, both of them.
Oh yeah.
And then these guys.
Yeah. God, every so often you get a goofball shot like that. I'm like, oh, okay. It's just Star Wars kind of thing where
That
it's like
motherfucker
in the
looks like a
cantina.
Smurf.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like when you get those establishing shots in a cantina and there's like aliens there that just couldn't possibly exist. Back in the red.
Yeah.
We ride together, we die together.
This is enjoyable from a sense of it's like, Kirk, we're gonna punish you by giving you everything you're looking for. And Kirk's like, yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
I imagine the whole saving the planet thing probably goes a long way.
Like that kind of look from Scotty there, like, yeah, I sabotaged it. If you ever get the chance, look up the blooper reel for this movie. It's really good.
You know, I rewatched the Rush Hour movies relatively recently, and I wish all movies had a blooper reel in the credits.
Oh, it's great.
It's so funny.
It's just nice to know that they had fun
Yeah, yeah, you always
when they
want to
make
know
all
that.
these movies.
But you remember the Toy Story had them? They animated the bloopers.
Yeah.
So did they know at this point they were making another one as well?
No, I think they were flying by the seat of their pants with all of these movies. I think they've gotten themselves into a pretty good momentum with it, like where the movies were reliably making money. So, but I don't think they'd planned the next one. And actually, there was a bit of a production delay in the next movie coming out, which led to all kinds of problems further down the line.
Bravo indeed.
Yay, Kirk.
So what are you doing tonight?
I'm pretty sure they wouldn't just put her on like a starship. Like,
To be honest with you, there's got to be
you're
like
gonna
a
need
long process for her for like integration, right?
Yeah, there's quite, like she says, there's a lot to catch up on, and you can't just like be put onto a starship and expect to function.
Well, she wouldn't even have citizenship, I'd imagine. Like, you need to get a lot sorted out. Have they ever had this before, where a person from the past joins them in the future?
Uh yeah, it's happened in a few of the TV shows actually. There was a good TNG episode actually quite early on where like a bunch of people were cryogenically frozen in the 20th century, and like they come back and it's like, you know, a full spectrum of human society, like industrialists who are just greedy assholes and they don't understand why there's no like real like economy anymore, stuff like that. It's quite cool, quite interesting.
Oh,
Nice
wow.
little payoff. That is such a nice shot of Space Dock there.
Yeah.
Hey, Sulu got to say a word.
Is that the Excelsior?
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
Like how they're all tensed up, like, oh shit, is it going to be that?
Oh!
It's the thing. So this is where you first got the tradition of giving them letters now. Like all the enterprises now are like the Enterprise A, B, C, D, etc.
It's hard to go with any other design. The Enterprise is pretty cool.
Just looks nice. I think they peaked there. And there we go. That right there was Star Trek 4.
It was indeed. Like I said, it's much more of a chilled experience. It's a bit of fun. You get to spend time with the characters and appreciate Star Trek for other elements instead of always the intense and dramatic.
Yeah. I think it was just it felt like they were able to take the spirit of like an old original series episode and port it into TV format, but also follow on from Star Trek 3 in a way that didn't feel completely forced, and it kind of tied up that loose trilogy that we had that kind of dominated the middle portion of the original series movies. After this, like they very much just start a whole new story with Star Trek 5 and then 6.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
a 5 and 6 like a two-parter sort of, or are they?
No, they stand alone basically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. 5 is very much just a complete, like, it's its own story. It doesn't really carry on anything apart from like the fact that they've got a new Enterprise. The rest of it is just a whole new story. And then 6 is just the wrap up for the entire, I guess, arc throughout this series of movies.
The OG fellas.
Yeah, and I think if you're going to give people a good send off, it does a really, really good job. But I'll let you be the judge of that when you get to see it.
Fair enough.
But with this one, yeah, it was a nice change of pace. It's not one that I feel compelled to rewatch all that often. Like if I had to choose, a Star Trek movie to watch again, it would be Wrath of Khan or it would be Undiscovered Country, rather than this. And I think maybe just the fact that it's a lot of it's set just on Earth, and it's not necessarily like the classic things you'd expect from a Star Trek movie.
Well, so you said
space battles and all that.
Mid-season episode of a TV show, one that you might end up skipping when rewatching a TV show. That you go, oh yeah, I know this one. We can go to the next one, sort of thing.
But it's fun for what it is, I suppose.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I guess that's my thoughts on Star Trek 4. That's all I got right now. I don't know if you.
Not much else. I really like it. It probably is my second favorite out of the 4 so far, with 3 being third and the first being fourth. It's I think it has space to be a lot stronger and tighter, but as it stands, it's still a strong entry that I'm happy with, and I think it's neat that they were bold enough to explore some of the things they do in this, as well as not going the route of harder sci-fi and harder drama. It's fun to have room for stuff like this.
I think so. And yeah, I'm pleased that it got made. I'm pleased that it was as popular and successful as it was, and I'm pleased that it showed that you don't have to just always be, heavy with the drama and heavy with the seriousness. You can have a bit of a lighthearted tone to Star Trek occasionally and not have it turn into a total joke. So well done, Voyage Home. You did us proud, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think really for everyone who's watched us for this, who's joined us for this little watch through, I hope you enjoyed whatever insights we were able to provide. I hope you enjoyed rewatching the movie if that's what you chose to do. It was nice to revisit it after a few years of being away from this one. But yeah, I guess we'll finish up there, and I'll say that that's all we got for today. So we're going to go away now.
Bye.